Welcome back to this Live Sunday Talk Show. The panel is still with me, Professor Bola Akinterenwa, Director General, Bolitac Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director, Enough is Enough, and Professor Victor Ariole, Professor of French and Francophone Studies at the University of Lagos. Now, Professor Ariole, let me start with you, and maybe we should start with the release of the abducted Kangara students and also the various points that our guests raised about how to deal with the security situation in the country, and this special focus on boarding students in secondary schools, particularly in the northern part of the country, by bandits.
Well, Honorable Toby made a good presentation there by insisting that everything that concerns state must really, in terms of keeping security or right to cohesion, must be from the state governor or the Nigerian president, who is in charge of being the chief security officer of the nation. And like somebody once said, the governors see themselves as just mere logistic officers, which means even the power to be in charge of security in their own state is simply not there for them. And it requires always the federal government to come in. We have had the governor of Niger State claiming that support from the federal government was not adequate or as expected. And here again, we see Zamfara State, which is a state bordering Niger or Niger Republic, depending on how you want to call it, And the Niger Republic or Niger is like having our soldiers, trying to defend Nigerian border. And I don't know why the whole federal government apparatus is not making effort to see that we are protected from that angle, which is where they want to link a rail now to get into Niger. Maradi, for example. Maradi is bordering Zamfara State. And all these kidnapping processes go on within that circle. And it's easier for them to enter Niger Republic or Niger Republic, whatever, Niger, and to do whatever they want and they will be covered. And it's expected that federal government takes permission from Niger and say, look, this Zamfara border that gets into Maradi, we have to take charge of it. And the ECOWAS protocol is supposed to cover the federal government for that sake. Somehow we are afraid of the northeastern side because ECOWAS protocol does not cover Cameroon and Chad. But the ECOWAS protocol covers at least Niger Republic. And so the federal government is supposed to tell the Niger Republic president, especially as it is in the hands of Usman now, that is also an Hausa man for that matter, to take care of those areas and make sure that we cordon their operations and take care of them very well.
Well, Prof, I guess you are speaking in the context of cooperation, rather than outsourcing the responsibilities of the Nigerian state. But let's take a short break, commercial break, and then we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to this Live Sunday Talk Show here on the Arise News channel. Still with me in the studio, I have Professor Bola Akinterenwa, Director General, Bolitac Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director, Enough is Enough, and Professor Victor Ariole, Professor of French and Francophone Studies at the University of Lagos. Professor Ariole, before we went on break, you were talking about how Nigeria can collaborate with Niger to address some of the security challenges that we have in Nigeria. I don't know whether you want to add to that, because I was going to ask the question. Our guest raised the question of capacity, that when the president says state governments and school owners should secure their schools, he said, well, it will come down to a question of capacity, and that shouldn't we begin to think about state police?
You see, that's what I'm saying. You see, wherever you go, they talk about kinetic means is not sufficient. Kinetic means certainly capacity using human beings, either police force or military force. That's what I'm talking about, cooperating or having cooperation with the Niger Republic, which is what the American people did in rescuing their person, because they brought him from Niger to Nigeria. They still found a way to get him out. So what I'm trying to say is that these people will definitely enter Niger if they are finding Nigerian space uncomfortable. I'm talking of the kidnappers or the bandits or whatever name you give them. So at the point you're able to cordon them or keep them off entering Niger, the military people know how to capture them like fowl. And that's exactly what I'm saying. Ability, if they are really sincere to pick them, the military will pick them. Being that where they are operating from is just within the border of Nigeria and Niger Republic.
Professor Akinterewa, let me come back to you. What other new ideas do you think that the federal government can consider? They have made it clear they will not condone any form of criminality. Some government officials have talked about dialogue and negotiation. Some others have said no, ransom will not be paid. There have been suggestions about the need to change the ECOWAS protocol. I think it was the Minister of Information who was saying that the problem is with the ECOWAS protocol that allows free movement of persons across the 16 countries in ECOWAS. What do you think?
Well, it's only in Nigeria that we always like to deal with secondary matters, secondary issues. The critical problem, they will not attend to it. A Minister of Information can say ECOWAS protocols are the problem. That is one perception. But he needs to justify that. The ECOWAS protocols that are relevant will include the 22nd April 1978 protocol on non-aggression, the May 29, 1981 protocol on mutual assistance on defense, and possibly the protocol on assistance on criminal matters. When you take a costly look at the provisions of the three, true that we have the protocol on the free movement of people, persons, right of residence, right of establishment. We have all that. But the main problem is that the political will to control, to contain, to prevent insecurity from people coming to Nigeria is the issue. The Nigerian government, the Nigerian Immigration Service, the customs, all the security agencies are there. First of all, the ECOWAS protocol did not provide, did not encourage, did not require any community citizens coming to Nigeria to engage in banditry or any act of insecurity. It precisely provides that any host state itself has the right to refuse, to reject anybody coming in. The protocol says you have the right to stay, to travel to any member state without visa if you are not going to stay beyond 90 days. But if you are going to stay beyond 90 days, you should please ask for permission of your host state. And it says that the laws of the host country must be respected. Now, if the Minister of Information is saying ECOWAS protocols are the problem, no, it is the implementation by the security agencies of Nigeria that's the problem. And in concluding this point, if our guest, Toby Okechukwu, is talking about coercion being the preserve of the state, we agree, saying that they don't have capacity etc. I asked the question, how much is given to them as security vote? Did they account for that one? So the problem is not capacity alone. I agree that, look, they may be security officers, but they may not have the general support. The commissioners of police are reporting to Abuja. I can have all this. But the bottom line is simply that there is nothing to suggest to me as a professional student that the government is very serious, that the President Muhammadu Buhari administration is serious about all these things. We need to see. It's not evident.
Well, Yemi Adamolekun, thank you for joining us. How do we make our schools safe? Is it the responsibility of the school owners or the state government? And now that the government science secondary school students of Kangara have been released, we're still hoping and expecting and praying that the Zamfara 317 students will also regain their freedom. What are your suggestions in terms of how our schools can become safe, particularly boarding schools?
Thank you. But as we've been talking about, it's not just about schools, really. It's about the structure of our country that allows bandits, criminals, to kidnap students in schools, and then we're sort of left wondering, oh, what should we do? Who is responsible? Mr. President is saying that action should not be taken as weakness. But we know talk is cheap, because the bandits are doing what they've done because they can. In the 6 years of this administration, over 1,000 school students have been kidnapped. The Jangepe girl, someone just made a note that I just read that said, the record that we have from Chibok and Dapchi is that no kidnapping of schoolgirls returned all the girls. For Kankara and Kangara, all the boys were returned, and I hope that is the case for Zamfara, but it's something to think about. But I say all of that to say that it's not a how do we make our schools secure as an isolated conversation, but within the context of the challenge we have of governance in Nigeria. Representative Toby spoke quite a bit about what they've done and what they're doing, but what I didn't hear from him is the urgency which the National Assembly is taking its role as lawmakers. Yes, we're trying to amend the Constitution. When we have such a crisis in our hands, is this not the time to fast track it? So even if we're trying to amend the Constitution in a larger, different pieces of it, we'll not take this element out that allows state governments to then have control. We see government, you asked him the question about governors and allocating more resources. Yeah, technically they could do that. But again, this whole issue of this federation, the devolution of powers, the ability of state governors to actually control and manage the states in the best way possible. We need to address that. We need to address the fact that, as you also asked Representative Toby, that in different parts of the country, people are treated differently when they behave in the same way. So IPOB is, they're terrorists, they're this, they're that. Bandits are disgruntled Nigerians. Now, as Representative Toby said, banditry is a crime. What led you to it might be failures of the state and all of that. And we can have a conversation around that and have a conversation around what the state can do better. But if you've committed a crime, you do the time. It's really very simple. So when state governors and members of the National Assembly are now using flowery language to talk about a crime, it's the same way we call fake news fake news. It's a lie. Fake news is a lie. So there's no need. So these things that we're giving very basic things, fancy names, is a problem for me, and it's not allowing us to deal with these issues as they should be dealt with. So if we're calling bandits disgruntled citizens, but if it's in the southeast, we say that they are terrorists. If it's in the southwest, we give it some other name. All of these things, for me, speak to the fact that we don't have an equal country. We're all treated differently, depending on who we are and what we're doing. Mr. President is speaking a good game, but we've seen nothing that speaks to that action, that speaks to action. The National Assembly is sort of wringing their hands, kind of acting as if they can't do anything, or they are incapacitated, or they're just tired. I don't even know what they're doing. I mean, they summoned the president the first time, called their bluff. They haven't done anything since then. So the different elements for me, those are the things that we need to discuss, not how do you can't keep schools safe when there's no justice. You can't keep schools safe when there's people don't feel a sense of ownership of the state. You can't keep schools safe when you have 36 state governors that have equal access to resources. Yes, they can save, but its ability to save, allocate resources is very different than Lagos State's ability to allocate resources. So these conversations need to go back to the fundamentals. And I'm glad, I mean, at least Representative Toby talked about the confab of 2014 and the reports of the Insecurity Committee. The fact that our National Assembly, almost 1 year later, don't have this document, and we want to talk about devolution of powers and the federation is actually quite scary, if I want to use that word. So yeah, a lot of problems to discuss.
Yeah, well, thank you, Yemi. Let's quickly move on to our next topic. Following in the footsteps of Kano State, Governor Aminu Tambuwal of Sokoto State has signed the Hisbah Commission bill into law. A statement released from his spokesperson reads in part, and I quote, Hisbah law does not and is not in conflict with any provision of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It is not a state police, it is not Sharia police, it is more of a community policing device, organ, agency, for want of a singular adjective to qualify it, that is coming on board to help the other constitutionally recognized security outfits operating in the state in, first and foremost, providing intelligence, collecting, collating, and providing intelligence to the security services, complementing the role of also nipping in the bud crime and reporting to appropriate agencies any likelihood of the commission of a crime, unquote. He added that the Hisbah police will not discriminate against believers of another faith, but provide support to the agencies of security that are established by the Constitution. Well, Yemi, let me come back to you. From what we have seen, can we have this kind of assurance that the Hisbah police in Sokoto State will not target persons of another faith against the background of what we've seen, say in Kano State, in Zamfara State, in Kaduna State, and other parts of the north, where you have similar Hisbah units. But let's take a quick commercial break, and then when we return, we'll come back to you. Welcome back to Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Still have with me Professor Bola Akinterenwa, Yemi Adamolekun, and Professor Victor C. Ariole. Yemi, let me now come to you on this question of the Hisbah Commission. The bill has been assented to by the governor of Sokoto State, and he's made a lot of promises. Can we trust that the Hisbah Commission, the Hisbah police in Sokoto State will be different from Hisbah that we have seen in other parts of the north?
I mean, you've set it up very well. You've said Kano, Kaduna, Zamfara, there have been issues. I don't see why we shouldn't expect that there will be issues in Sokoto, but I guess only time will tell. But again, this goes back to the fact that state governors are having to find different ways to, under the guise of security, set up different bodies that end up doing different things. I think it was the Kano one that they found the head of it in a hotel with some women or whatever it was. So time will tell. But again, until state governors have clear powers around security and they can do things in a transparent and clear way, these things will continue to come up.
Well, Professor Akinterenwa, Hisbah police, it's not as if it's a new creation in Sokoto State, by the way. It's been there. It's just that the law was reviewed and the governor signed it. But the governor assuring us that the law is in conformity with constitutional provisions and people should not fear that this Hisbah police will impose or enforce religious tenets. Can we really be sure of that?
Is the Constitution, is the law not there when we have the Boko Haramis fighting? Is the law not there when armed robbers, kidnappers decide to address the people on the road. I'm saying that the law as assented to can be there. The issue is who will respect it, all right? The issue is the implementation. One thing is to have a declared intention. The other thing is to look at what happens. What is always different from what is ideal, what should be. In other words, I don't have problem per se with having, the bill now adopted, accepted to, we've promulgated the law. It is okay. I think it is consistent with the quest for a true federal system. Under normal circumstances, a constitutive state of Nigeria should be able to organize its security framework. And I want to go along with Wole Soyinka, who said yesterday during the public presentation of his new book that any given state in Nigeria where, for instance, the chief executive of the state is not able to prevent the kidnapping of the citizens, that they should simply shut that one down. And I think that in this particular case, let there be the Hisbah there, but others will follow and ensure that we have state police, we have community police, so that a true federal system can be put in place.
Well, Professor Ariola.
Well, if the expectation is just to have a community police, there is nothing wrong. But my experience of what I saw when I went to Borno State around 2009, it does not seem to be very, very helpful in terms of what is going to come out of it. But we have seen what they do in Kano, sometimes not very, very helpful to the totality of Nigerians, which means there is still segregation, and they will know those who really belong to them and those who don't belong to them and know how to treat them. We have seen how it happens in Zamfara State. All these are boiling states in Nigeria. And Sokoto State, we all know, happens to be the headquarters of, if you like, in quotes, of the caliphate. And we expect some level of civilization or civil way of handling it to come out from that Sokoto State. And I expect Governor Tambuwal, who intends or have tried once to be the president or to canvass for vote to be the president of Nigeria, to know how best to go about it so that it doesn't escalate to what we are seeing now in Zamfara, because they still have Hisbah in Zamfara. And what is happening there, we know how such people are protecting or not protecting the Zamfara people. They are still there in Kano, and we know how or how not they are not protecting the whole Kano environment. Kaduna, we know what the southern people are talking about, that they are not protected by such community police, in quote. And so we expect Sokoto to be a bit different. And that is how best we will know whether the governor is really serious or not.
Well, we hope so.
Bishop Kuka. You have raised the issue of Bishop Kuka there.
In this same Sokoto, right?
Yeah, same Sokoto, because it's a critical issue.
Anyway, let's move on. Let's take another subject. This should be of interest to you, Professor Akintenwa. The Senate has confirmed the nomination of 5 former military service chiefs as ambassadors-designate, despite petitions against them, which it says are not enough to stop the nominees. The Senate confirmation follows consideration of the report of the Committee on Foreign Affairs. The confirmed non-career ambassadorial nominees are Abayomi Olonishakin, representing Ekiti State, Tuko Buratai, representing Borno State, Ibokete Ibas, representing Cross River State, Sadiq Abubakar, representing Bauchi State, and Muhammad Usman, representing Kano State.
He has carefully and thoroughly screened the 5 nominees and is satisfied with their qualification, exposure, conduct, and character and experience and general performance. The nominees have displayed wide and in-depth knowledge on international military diplomacy. Therefore, the committee recommends as follows: that the Senate do confirm the nomination.
From the petition that I received, what that petition clearly states is that this Senate took a resolution that these men should be removed as heads of the security apparatus in Nigeria. And not just once, but 3 times we took that decision here. If they are nominated for something that is different, I think our resolution asking for their removal as service chiefs does not cross over to that nomination. Our appeal to the executive arm of government is to make sure that we utilize their experiences as service chiefs, as military men. Okay, there you have it. The endorsement of the former service chiefs by the Senate, allowing them to be appointed by President Buhari as ambassadors to various countries. But we'll take another short break. When we return, Professor Akintenwa, please be on standby to lead the discussion on this. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Still in the studio, Professor Bola Akintenwa, Yemi Adamolekun, and Professor Victor C. Ariole. Well, before we went on break, I had raised the point about the confirmation by the Senate of the nomination of former service chiefs as ambassadors-designate. Over to you, Prof.
I think we have 2 quick points to address. First, to congratulate the ambassadors-designate, at least for scaling through the domestic level of the process. The next thing now will then be for their in-training and then send their papers to countries they are likely to be accredited to, and in which case the final approval itself is at the level of the countries they will be accredited to. They are the one to determine whether they will be person grata or person non grata. But for now, at least, they've scored more than 50% in this case. The second point is at the level of the Senate President and the petition to which attention was drawn. The petition is that, look, we have service chiefs who 2-3 times had been asked to be replaced by the same National Assembly, allegedly for inability to perform, to function very well, to deliver. These same people now are now being considered for ambassadorial appointment. I think that the Senate President is fundamentally wrong in terms of analysis and methodological analysis by saying that, look, their military experience will be required in another sphere, in another scope. The experience you had as service chiefs to contain insecurity is not necessarily different from the experience you are carrying elsewhere. It's a function, it's innate. Now, if, for instance, your experience cannot be good in containing insecurity, why will it be good when you are in another sphere? Experience is constant, it's not different. Capacity is innate. If the capacity is not there at the level of fighting Boko Haramism, why will it be there when you are going for diplomatic skills? It's simply because in Nigeria we have come to the level whereby everybody bastardizes diplomacy. Engineers now think that, look, they can perform the business of diplomatic functions better than career people. Career ambassadors nowadays are even asking for possibility of pension. You'll be ambassador for 2-3 years. You are asking for pension, all those things. That's the extent to which diplomacy has been bastardized. And I think that at the end of the day, we only hope that the status of an ambassador, we used to be respected. The best of the best are people who are sent out to go and negotiate. I only hope that we will not end up, by the time President Muhammadu Buhari will be leaving, that diplomacy will now become a nonsensical profession. But I congratulate the service chiefs, at least, for their being considered one, and for the Senate to have confirmed their appointment. I hope that they will be acceptable to the countries they will be accredited to.
Well, Yemi, let me come to you quickly. You recall that Garba Shehu issued a statement reminding everyone that the president decided to nominate these former service chiefs as compensation for excellent work done. And here, Prof, the People's Democratic Party, foreign relations experts are saying, well, they didn't do any great work as service chiefs. Could this stand, or we're already faced with a fait accompli?
Well, unfortunately, I think the process, as Prof has said, is that the Senate needs to confirm them. And unsurprisingly, as we've seen, the National Assembly and continues as a rubber stamp agenda, as people call it, has approved it. I don't know why, as a country, we always think it's okay to not put our best foot forward. I think it was the International Court, Criminal Court at The Hague, that we sent a representative that scored very poorly, who wasn't qualified. And this is a nation of brilliant lawyers who have done very well, both locally. There's an English word I was looking for that escaped me, but who have done very well both locally and internationally. But we thought that was the best person to put forward on the international scene. And the president, again, these are men that Nigerians have been calling for them to be fired for many years, kept them on until I'm not even quite sure what finally got him to fire them, gave them a soft landing by having them resign, and now we're going to send them off to be representatives of Nigeria in different countries. It'll be interesting to see the countries that they're posted to, and I dare say it'll be interesting to see how Nigerians respond, because I can think of some countries where Nigerians there might not welcome them very warmly. And it'll be then, I don't know, maybe Prof can speak to that. If you send an ambassador to a country and then the people in that country say they're not a good representative of them, and in a sense protest to the country not to accept them. Has that ever happened? That'd be kind of interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's just a continuation of Mr. Buhari failing to read Nigerians, yes. And if he does read Nigerians, do anything about it.
Well, Prof, you want to respond briefly to that question raised by Yemi?
Yeah, you see, generally, the host government will have taken into account, the feelings of the people at home to determine whether or not to accept. That's why, for instance, contrary to press reports, the way we are having them, the government of Nigeria must first of all secure the consent of the country to which they will be accredited. And in this particular case, many a times, ambassadors-designate have been rejected and just declare them persona non grata. But whether people will demonstrate in the public, generally it is not done.
Well, I'm just, you see, this is Nigeria, and things are exceptional in Nigeria in some cases. Like I always talk about Professor Bola Akinteriwa's signature tune of international community could frown against such things, My worry is that we should be careful so that we don't take them to where they will turn out to become Manuel Noriega of Panama. Yes, I'm just worried. So government should be very careful so that they don't send them to where they will be confiscated based on what international community is seeing as not being normal.
Yes,
and then Nigeria will be helpless, and Nigeria will turn more stupid entity than expected of us, you know. So this is very, we should be cautious about it. But for being excellent in the job they have done is also to tell Nigerians that there is definitely a hidden power block that explains what is excellence in Nigeria. Certainly, we don't know. There must be a hidden power block
yes, of course,
that must have come out to explain that what they did, their performance was excellent. And so...
when the ICC is looking for some of them.
Exactly. So I don't really know. It's only within the presidency and maybe the national security advisor that could explain what the excellence is all about. And we are helpless. That's exactly what it is.
Anyway, let's move on. Let's take another topic. 1 year of COVID. After a year of disruptions due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Ghana makes history by becoming the first recipient of the first COVAX vaccines shipped to Africa to the tune of 600,000 vaccine doses, with Ivory Coast receiving the second batch of 504,000 doses. The vaccines are part of an initial tranche of deliveries of the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine licensed to the Serum Institute of India, which represent part of the first wave of COVID vaccines headed to several low and middle-income countries. Ghanaian health officials say the shots will be used to kickstart a vaccination drive that will prioritize frontline health workers and others at high risk of infection. Meanwhile, Nigeria is expecting to take delivery of 4 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines from the COVAX facility this week, and another source of vaccines later from the African Vaccination Action Task Team, through which 41 million doses of AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson vaccines are expected. The Secretary to the State Government, to the Federal Government, has expressed optimism that by the time the country gets 40% of the population vaccinated in 2021 and 30% in 2022, which is cumulative of 70%, Nigeria will be arriving at herd immunity. Well, Yemi Adamolekun, if you are still there, I would like to start with you. Should we be excited that at last, after many broken promises, Nigeria will now get its first batch of COVID-19 vaccines next week, Tuesday, as the Secretary to the Government of the Federation said? They will be coming after Ghana and Ivory Coast. Many Nigerians worry about that. Is that something to worry about?
Well, I mean, Nigerians are quite proud of their country, and we do say we're the giants of Africa. So maybe in that context, the fact that we're coming after Ghana and Ivory Coast is a dent on, from a pride perspective. But I don't know the dynamics of why Ivory Coast first or why Ghana first. If they did things we were supposed to do that we didn't do, I don't know why. But it is good news that we're getting the vaccine, because the way the world is now, it's a requirement. But I do also agree with Mr. Toby that, or Representative Toby, that we didn't, I don't get a sense that we did enough in, well, actually, let me not say that we did enough. The fact that we haven't invested in research and we haven't taken this seriously over time will obviously show up when we have a pandemic like this. So it's not during a pandemic that you're suddenly scrambling to fund institutions of research and empower your scientists to be able to deal with things like that. I mean, I think it's a federal university, Redeemers University in Ede, and I forget the other education institution that were able to, what's the word, decode the DNA strain or whatever the strain of the virus or whatever it is.
The other
so
university
it is
is
good
the Adeleke University.
Thank you very much. Both private university, which is also significant in the fact that that came from private university, and speaks to resources, that they have the resources and the capacity to do that level of research. NIMR in Lagos has been instrumental in the study with NCDC that the BBC reported recently. They did a study of 10,000 people, sort of projecting how many Nigerians could possibly have had the virus by now. So the capacity is there. We talk about this all the time. But again, it's about investment and capacity. So it's a good thing. And the National Primary Health Agency they've been sharing on Twitter how they are training people who would vaccinate, the process for the different categories of people. They have an online platform where people can voluntarily sign up to get the vaccine. So from that end, and from what I understand, Nigeria has a very strong vaccine rollout infrastructure. So leveraging on that would do some good and something positive that we can build on. And we'll look forward to seeing how it goes out.
Okay, well, we'll take another short break. But before then, Professor Ariole, I would like to ask you, when the vaccine is available, will you be willing to take it? Or you are vaccine hesitant, like many Nigerians?
It's not really the point.
Let's take the break first. We'll take a short break now. When we return, this is Live, the Sunday talk show. We'll continue. Stay with us. To this Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Still with me in the studio, Professor Bola Akintenwa, Yemi Adamolekun, and Professor Victor C. Ariole. Prof, before we went on break, I was asking whether you would take the vaccine.
No.
Now that the vaccine will be here next week.
I don't think I'm one of those the most essential people to take the vaccine. They must start from those people they claim are most essential.
But when it gets to your turn.
No, when it gets to my turn, my worry about Nigerian vaccine and the issue, you see, I took once yellow fever vaccine in Nigeria. Then when I reached to Ivory Coast, they told me it's invalid. So I'm just wondering whether I should go back to Ivory Coast, that I take the one that is valid so that I won't be...
No, this vaccine is the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine.
I agree with you. I mean, couple of years ago, 12,000 children died in Kano. It's still bad vaccine issue now. We don't know what it's intended for in Nigeria.
The Ivorian case.
Yes,
the Ivorian case you are referring to is simply because they thought that, look, in Nigeria you can always get your yellow card stamped for you without even having that. That was why.
It's a problem, seriously, because I wouldn't know whether it will be accepted even when I take it in Nigeria and go out. Because when I go to US, nobody asks me about yellow fever vaccine. Ivory Coast here asked me about yellow fever vaccine. And the one I took in Nigeria, they don't accept it. So, you see, it's still controversial. And people...
Well, that will be the case if there is vaccine passport. But if you have a valid vaccine passport, I'm sure that in those countries that are now talking about the vaccine passport, why should they think that you got a fake vaccine in Nigeria?
Whatever it is, we pray that it gets right. Because my own interest now is what the Commissioner of Health in Lagos State is saying, which is the mRNA vaccine. And I think we have to see it from his perspective. I expect that one to be a very valid one. If it comes to me, I will ask them to give me the shot very fast.
Well, I don't think Lagos State is out of the Nigerian framework.
Yeah, but I think there is something special they are doing in Lagos State, which I expect to happen.
Quickly.
I think that come Tuesday, when we actually receive the vaccines, that can be good news. We cannot be talking about good news when we are still anticipating. When we, for 48 hours, a situation of force majeure can now lead to a new announcement. Secondly, I think that others should provide leadership by example. I'm not ready to take any vaccine for now. Even if, for whatever reason, a situation arises whereby I will be compelled, because they have made it a conditionality now that if you don't have a certification to the effect that if you want to travel, they will ask you for this certificate of inoculation. So in this case, I think that the politics of it internationally, the way they are going about, whether it's the AstraZeneca vaccines that we are getting, I think, look, we need to exercise caution.
Okay, strong point there. when we see the vaccines, when we hear that the vaccines have arrived, we'll believe the secretary to the government of the Federation.
Yes.
Because we've been given different dates.
Every time.
But he seems to be a bit certain this time. Finally, before we go, at least 2 people have been killed and hundreds arrested in the ongoing post-election violence in Niger. This is according to the government, which accuses a prominent opposition figure of stoking the unrest. Violence erupted on Tuesday after the Electoral Commission declared former Interior Minister Mohamed Bazoum victor in Sunday's runoff vote with 55.75%, while opposition candidate Mahamane Usman garnered 44.25%. Usmane disputed the result and claimed he narrowly won with 50.3% of the vote. The elections have been described as a democratic watershed for the country. President Mahamadou Issoufou is voluntarily stepping down after 2 5-year terms, paving the way for the first elected transition since independence from France in 1960. Well, I think it's good news that President Issoufou is not planning to sit tight or become president for life. But you spoke earlier on the program about Niger, Professor Ariole.
Yes, what happened in Niger seems to be a very good, if you like, a very good thing for West Africa in terms of inclusion. I mean, the person who has just been elected just to be ratified happened to be an Arab, and a minority for that matter in Niger Republic. And Issoufou is now, who happens to be the incumbent, happened to be the person who supported him to be the president. And it's very interesting. Here you have Issoufou. Issoufou is an Hausa man, and then they're supporting an Arab man to make sure that, yes, there is cohesion in Niger Republic, not a disparity, not a tribal issue, nothing. That is where I see it as a very good step for West Africa, and I expect other people to support Bazoum, because whatever be the case, he has proved himself to be a good West African. Having graduated from University Sheikh Anta Diop of Dakar, and other presidents in West Africa, some of them in West Africa, graduated from that same school, and they are supporting him. People like Macky Sall, like Talon, like they're all trying to see that they come together and support his presidency. I expect Nigeria also to follow suit, most especially as we are having problems within that border circle in Nigeria, so that there will be a seemingly peaceful situation and atmosphere in our country, because Niger Republic is completely part of what will make Nigeria peaceful or not peaceful, whether we like it or not. And we must be interested in that.
Well, Professor Akintenwa.
On that, you see, Nigeria and Niger signed an agreement establishing a joint commission as far back as 1971. And this issue of security that we have just raised is actually part of the main rationale for establishing that. I think the cooperation is there already. But the question to ask on the basis of this election in Niger, is there any election in Africa where the opposition element has ever accepted that there was no fraud? I wouldn't see anyone. The second point is that incumbent governments there, they have never been transparent enough to let the general public and the opposition elements see and determine that there is nothing like a fraud. So the way we organize elections in Africa will need to be looked into on a more serious note.
Well, Yemi, any word on the elections in Niger and the violence that has broken out in that country? And is there a role for Nigeria? Quickly.
Just to follow up on Prof, it's not an African problem. If America with 200 plus years is contesting elections with violence, at least Africa can say it's not only us anymore. But I mean, Nigeria technically has a role as big brother in West Africa, but the undertones of sort of ethnic bias with Niger makes me a bit weary about suggesting any intervention since we haven't put our house in order. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Akinterewa, Professor Ariole, and Yemi Adamolekon. You've been watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati. From my entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again next Sunday.